Welcome everybody, this is my Spartan Midlands roundup review video. Now this isn't a review video necessarily about the venue or anything, this is kind of my experience of the day, of the weekend. So this is Spartan Midlands held at Belvoir Castle in Leicestershire. This is a fantastic venue, I've been to this venue loads of times. I went and did the Trifecta here last year, so I sort of knew what I was going to get. But this particular episode, this particular outing to Spartan was quite a special one for me for a few different reasons. Last year, Holly and I did the Trifecta together. This time she chose not to do them all, smart lady. She chose to do the Spartan Super, the blue one, the middle distance, as that was her favourite from the pack last time. So I had that to look forward to on the second day. I had signed up to the Beast, the green one, the long distance on the Saturday in age groups. And finally, I just tagged on the red one, the sprint, the sort of 5K on the end to make it a trifecta for me. In addition to that, we decided that we wanted to sign up the kids for their very first debut and their very first introduction to Spartan racing. So I signed my 8-year-old little girl Isabel up to the 1.5 kilometer kids race, and Charlie, my wee little 4-year-old boy, we signed him up to the 1K. So somewhere between signing up last year and taking part, at some point at Spartan HQ, they decided that they weren't in fact going to have an age group. Despite loads of people already signed up to it, they weren't going to have an age group for Beast. They sort of just dissolved that and threw all of the age group guys into the first wave of the Opens. It's to do with the championships that were running earlier, and they couldn't do both. So yeah, this had two knock-on effects really for me. One, obviously the pack, that first wave was then a much more competitive wave, even though it was in the Opens. But two, it knocked the start time of my race onward. Now, why does that bother me? Well, before, when I was in the age group, I would have gone off at something like 8:15, 8:30 perhaps. It would have given me enough time to get round comfortably, get back, get to the car, get clean, and then be at the start line for my little girl's race at 12. But by moving forward to 9:15, all of that surplus time dissolved, and potentially it all gets a little bit close at that point. So it meant I couldn't dilly-dally at all on this particular race. This meant that I had to think about how I was going to film it. I couldn't do it in the usual way with my stick and my camera. I had to sort of go for my lightest possible loadout, which was an Insta360 Go 3, which is a tiny little camera on my headband. And yeah, I had to think that this was, in order for me to get back, I couldn't mess around. I had to keep my legs turning over even at the hard times. So that was in my mind as I stood there on the start. Right, so that brings me forward to, there we are, start of Beast, right? Spartan Field does his thing.
I am Spartan!
3, 2, 1, poof. And we're off, overs and throughs, hay bales, and up into the hills of Belvoir Castle, of which there are loads. It was very obvious quite early on that the wave was a very competitive one. And in fact, it had a mixture of the competitive athletes, the age group competitive athletes, and just sort of regular Opens muggles, right? And you could see maybe 10, 15 of these guys went hard off the start line, and they didn't stop. And I tried to hold on to these guys, and it was very, very clear when I was turning around that the rest, the remainder, the bulk, they were falling further and further behind. And that's just because they were in the sort of general Opens and just taking their time. So I tried to hold on to the front pack for as long as I could, and as the race progressed, they inched away from me a little bit, as did the pack behind me. They got further and further behind, until I was kind of all by myself. You know, every corner I turned, every obstacle I found, I was completely by myself. In fact, it got quite lonely at times. In fact, the only times I ever saw people were on the big sort of loops that they do, and seeing people coming the other way. So the first 10k, it was nearly all running. It got to 10k at about 53 minutes. That goes to show you that there wasn't a lot of obstacles. I think there was Olympus in there, a couple of like things to climb over, but nothing of consequence. So after about 7-8 miles, you sort of burst out onto the main clearing, the main central field, which there is about 7 different obstacles. The first one of note is the trenches into the barbed wire crawl. This was all dry at this point because we were some of the first athletes to go through it, and it was big chunks of earth, dry earth, mixed with stone. So the absolute worst thing to drag yourself over, and I did not like that at all. In the subsequent runs that went through, obviously thousands of people had been over it and smoothed it all out, but in that first run it was rough and horrible. Then there was like the ape hanger. I love all the overhead ones, never any problems. So sort of swoop through that entire middle area quite quickly onto the other side. And the other side is kind of where there's another hill, another embankment. And again, the first thing of note is the chain carry. Now the chain carry is a funny one. It's not been in Spartan for very long, but it's a great carry, and it's because it's both heavy, awkward and difficult. Getting it on your neck in the first place is a bit of a chore. Then walking or running around with it feels uncomfortable, and you feel like you're going forever. And then even getting it off, you fear for your fingers or dropping it on your feet, because if you did, you would hurt yourself. After this, we were sent onward a little bit. There was a couple of other obstacles, monkey bars and such, and then we were presented with the absolute gem of this entire race. Right, this right at the heart of it is the sandbag carry. Right, the sandbag carry historically is just a sandbag carry around a loop, but in recent Spartan races, they've started to make it a little bit more interesting by mashing them together with something else. In this particular case, there was a sandbag. There was then an uphill barbed wire crawl. Again, first time through, rough, big lumps of earth that had been freshly dug with stones. It was grim, absolutely grim, and it felt like you was going forever. And when you inevitably then pop out at the top, you have to then put your sandbag in the plate drag and do that before moving on. Immediately after that, there was then the bucket carry, so back-to-back carries as well, which is always joy. Before sort of heading up the hill toward the stairway to Sparta. Squirreled over that before you do a U-turn, straight back down, and then you go through the sort of obstacle toward the end, and there was sort of the hoist, the 8-foot walls, the rope climb. Eventually then got to the spear throw, and straight in with it. The spear throw is fine as long as you just take a few moments to compose yourself, sort your rope out, make sure it's all on the other side of the fence. I always put my arm up. I always aim a little bit high, and I throw as hard as I can, allowing for the arc and the drop. And then you will, assuming that you haven't gone left or right, you should hit it. After this, it was just the run back up the hill to the A-frame. As I approached the A-frame toward the end, I heard my wife say,
"Daddy! 10 minutes till she starts, no pressure."
Flip over the A-frame around to the rig. I'd not incurred a single penalty up until this point, and the rig, you get to them 2 ropes like blooming dangling penises, and I fell off on the second one. So that was the one penalty I had to do through that oddly difficult cargo net, and then finally round to the finish, and that was beast done. So yes, I quickly got my t-shirt medal and squirreled across to the other side. Okay, made it back for Isabel's run with like 4 minutes to spare. By the time I was stood there, she was literally queuing up on the start line for her race. And despite being a little bit of a mess and a bit tired, I was able to follow her around and help her at the very relevant bits. Now, she had a great race. She is a really proficient runner for an 8-year-old, like 24-minute part run times. She's really good at what she does. She's just a little bit nervous when it comes to mud and water in her shoes. We've taken her to other sort of smaller obstacle course races, the Pretty Mudders, and one of the nuclear races before now, and it's the water in the shoes, the mud in the shoes. She'll fly through all the rest of the obstacles and then just stop dead at the edge of a few inches of water. So this is something we've been working on with her. I'm pleased to say though that after a brief hesitation and a few words from mummy and daddy, she did in fact go through both the water obstacle and the mud obstacle on the kids race. About an hour later, my 4-year-old son Charlie, it was his turn. Now he'd been observing all the other kids, all the other boys queuing up in Isabel's waves, and a few of those boys had taken their tops off. So sure enough, Charlie whips off his top, the only kid to do so in his own wave. And he's so diddy. He can't get over the walls, he can't hang on the rings, he can't climb up the obstacles. But man, did he put his heart and soul into it. He sprinted around this thing, his little legs were going like bees' wings. It was insanely cool to watch. Those who have watched some of my other videos may have seen that about a month ago he was in hospital, literally fighting for his life. He was having one of his crises that he has every now and again, and he was really struggling. To see him sprinting around this field was absolutely amazing. We take him to parkrun and he never tries as hard as he did at Spartan Race the other day. So really happy to see him. And when he'd finished it, he didn't hesitate to go through the mud or the water. He loves all that stuff. And he got his t-shirt, and he wore his t-shirt for nearly 24 hours after that because he was so proud of it. Yeah, brilliant. The kids did fantastic. And that was that day done. Okay, so that is the Spartan Beast done, day one. I am glad to say that I got it done in just over 2.5 hours. And I got back to see Isabel run at 12, which was a great reward for sort of battling round and not dilly-dallying too much on my miles. I also got to see Charlie run at 1. It was great to see both kids just getting involved. Hopefully one day we can do it all together. Now I need to sort of go home and regroup, have something to eat, something to drink, and I go again in the morning in the Spartan Super with my wife Holly. So I'm very much looking forward to getting that done. So the second day, this is where I get to top my beast up into a trifecta. This is the day that I went out and I did the super with Holly. So you lose almost that first 10k, all the stuff, all the hills that you have at the start of beast, and it's reduced right down to about a 10k. Now some of the obstacles have been removed, so things like ape hanger. Holly really wanted to go at ape hanger because this is one of the obstacles that had beat her last year. We personally think because it's right there in the middle, it should have stayed in. A couple of other things, the vertical cargo net, that gets simplified, as would Stairway to Sparta if that had been in. A few of the harder obstacles are just made more manageable for the sort of the mainstream people wanting to do the sort of middle distance, the middle difficulty Spartan race, the blue one. So we went around this and we had a great time. We weren't taking our time. We managed to maintain running throughout. It's one of those things that when you do it with a partner, like a wife or a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, it's just a really nice, it builds memories, and it's cool to do as a couple, I think. So we got all the way around. I saw Holly, she bested some of the obstacles that she struggled with last year. Some of the overhead hanging obstacles, she just bossed them all this time. The rope climb, that had she'd struggled with that last year because of all the slimy mud that was on the course last year, and she got up that no problem. The one thing that she still hasn't yet been able to do is land one of the spear throws. I think a lot of the ladies seem to struggle with the spear throws. I don't know what the solution is to that. Yeah, and we had a great time. The only thing worth noting really from that is that the A-frame had broke, and they were sending us over the kids one. That felt a little bit embarrassing to climb over the kids A-frame. And then we both inevitably failed the rig again, did the little penalty, and we had finished. And that was the end of the super. So finally, the sprint. Now, on this particular one, I'd done all the obstacles twice now, and I didn't necessarily feel the need to take my camera out with me. In fact, as I stood there on the start line, I thought, well, I'm gonna go for this. I'm gonna spend as much energy on this as I've got left. It's the last sort of 5-6k. I might as well have a go. And so everyone lines up. There's a few obviously competitive guys because they've got like team vests on or team jerseys, where I was stood there in bright pink shorts. So Spartan Field does his thing and we are off, and it's quite clear that again there is quite a fast pack at the front. Now I held on to these guys as long as I could. In fact, all the way up, sort of up the first few hills, we were all clustered together, and you quite quickly on the sprint break out into that middle clearing again, and it was down to the cargo nets, and as we entered the cargo nets we were all together. As we sort of went over the walls and the vertical cargo net, we started to spread out a little bit until I was running with just one other fella in a nuclear races vest. As we sort of went over the next couple of obstacles, I found myself at the very front, as in quite significantly in the front, and this is kind of where the wheels fell off. As I entered the sandbag carry up that infernal hill again, I went into the right lane, and it was very narrow that way. Of the 3 lanes, it got narrower and narrower and narrower as you got higher up, and it got very difficult to sort of maneuver. I couldn't lift myself off the ground very much. I very much had to worm my way out of it, at which point the guy in the nuclear vest sort of inched past me. And I kept him in sight after that, but I couldn't make any ground. But all the way round, over sort of the hoist, over the 8-foot walls, the rope climb, even the spear throw was bob on. Yeah, so inevitably, when I got to the end, I'd come in second, and that was really, really cool. I very much enjoyed that race. Overall, on that sprint, I came 7th of nearly 600 people. If I'd done the sprint the previous day, I would have won it with that time. So yes, I was really quite pleased with that last performance. It was fantastic. Just a little bit of racing was a nice way to sort of finish the sort of trifecta on the weekend for me. So what do you get for competing? Every single time you do a race, you get the respective colour medal for it. So I've got a red one for sprint, the 6k, the blue one, which is about 11-12k. Note, I am saying slightly longer distances than they say on the medals. That's because Spartan miles are further than actual miles. And the beast, which was about 40 miles by the end, and that's the green one. And if you do them all in one weekend, like I did, you get what's known as a weekend medal. Now, let me just get a bit of focus on this a sec. There you go. And in this particular year's weekend medal, it does this. How cool is that? That is an awesome piece of bling to get. Just awesome. And that is going to take pride of place up on my medal rack here. All in all, it was a great weekend. It was great to see my kids perform. It was great to see the wife beat some of the obstacles that she'd struggled with last year and come away, you know, all happy, smiley people. We are all now a family of Spartans. So yes, that was our weekend. Now, I would love to hear in the comments below what you felt about some of those obstacles. Certainly the uphill sandbag carry, that always seems to be quite contentious when people are talking about, I hate it, I like it, I hate it, I like it. Yeah, stick some comments down below, the things that you liked, the things that you struggled with. Just let's get talking. Thank you for watching this video. There will likely be more content around Spartan and other obstacle course races and other events and hyroxes and stuff in the future, so please give the channel a subscribe. I think there's a button down here somewhere. If you just do that, it means the world to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon. All right, Mart out.